special meeting of the Transportation, Mobility, and Infrastructure Commission. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Ralston, would you like to lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. That brings us to item 1A on the general administration function part of the agenda, presentations by the public on matters not on the agenda within the jurisdiction of the commission.
And there are no presentations.
Thank you. Moving on then to item 1B, Commissioner Communications. Commissioners, are there any communications at this time? Seeing none, moving on to item 1C, consideration of selection of chair and vice chair.
Looking for a nomination for vice chair?
Commissioners, is there a nomination for vice chair at this time?
Actually,
I'll make a motion in that case.
should I start it with chair first?
Yeah, chair.
Thank you.
Commissioners, is there a motion for chair at this time?
I make a motion for Commissioner Hirsch to be commissioner and chair of this committee moving forward.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Ralston, second by Commissioner Kazanis. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Okay.
And since there's no need to move the name tags, I'll move on to accepting nominations for the vice chair position.
I'll nominate Commissioner Ralston.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Second.
Are there any other nominations? In that case, all those in favor of Commissioner Ralston, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. And again, I don't think there's any need to move the name tags in that case. Moving on to item 3 on the regular agenda, consideration of the update, item 2 on the consent agenda. Consideration of approval of the minutes of the December 4th, 2017 Transportation, Mobility, and Infrastructure Commission meeting.
Make a motion to accept them as written.
We have a motion to accept by Commissioner Ralston. Is there a second?
I second.
A second by Commissioner Johnson. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, and the minutes are approved. Speeding on to item 3 on the regular agenda, consideration of the update of the 2018 Bicycle, Pedestrian, and Trails Master Plan.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Commission. My name is Chris Doherty with the Public Works Department. I'll give it a second for the PowerPoint to load up. There we go. Okay. The item for you this evening is a preview of the 2018 Bicycle, Pedestrian, Trails Master Plan update. The original plan, this effort was originally kicked off in 2016 and aims to build off of the successes of the 2013 Bike and Pedestrian Trails Master Plan that we'll discuss. The purpose of this master plan is twofold. It is to identify the deficiencies in the active transportation network and to plan the type of facilities that meets those deficiencies and to prioritize the projects to secure funding for those facilities. Since the 2013 plan was adopted by City Council, we have had a fair amount of success securing funding for our bikeway network throughout the city. We have secured funding and built, not quite constructed yet, but 4 miles of Class 1 trails. Those are your bike trails. 10.4 miles of the Class 2 bike lanes. And 2.2 miles of the Class 3 or the bike routes, the neighborhood bike routes. The 2018 update will include some new features that were not in the 2013 plan. That'll make the master plan easier for the general public to read and to understand, and some more focused analysis on the bikeway network. We are moving this plan to a lighter, more infographic style of document that is less dependent on text and less dense to read. We're also moving away from a lot of the technical jargon that generally exists in these plans, like I'll refer to the past slide of the Class 1 trails versus the term bike trails is a good example of that. Most members of the public don't understand what a Class 1 trail is and really want to know where the bike trails and walking trails are going to be throughout their community. So this document really serves to better inform the residents, but still keeping the details that we need for the funding agencies to go after the grant dollars to make these projects real. We're also expanding on the level of traffic stress. We were the first jurisdiction in the region to deploy this methodology of analysis in the 2013 Bike and Pedestrian Trails Master Plan. It was a relatively new concept in the profession at that time. So we took this opportunity with this new plan to really dive a little deeper and to analyze our roadway network. The level of traffic stress analysis looks at several different criteria to better quantify how it feels as a cyclist on that roadway. I use the example of a standard 5-foot bike lane feels very different on a 30-mile-an-hour local street versus a 6-lane arterial with 45 to 50-mile-an-hour traffic. This helps to kind of quantify that stress and find those barriers for a large part of the population that would like to ride bikes, but is a little bit concerned about safety and that feeling of a car getting too close to them in the roadway. So this will help us really make better choices when it comes to commuting routes and bike routes to our activity centers throughout the city. The master plan is scheduled to come back to the TMI Commission on March 5th with a draft document that you can review in its entirety. We'll also be going to the Parks Commission on March 6th, the night after, with the same document. Because of the trails integration into the Parks Commission, both commissions get to see that document. We'll be going to council for a workshop, ideally on April 4th of 2018, and back for adoption either April 21st or May 9th. That usually depends on the amount of feedback we get at council and how fast we can incorporate it. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Commissioners, are there any questions?
I can applaud that you guys, is this a 5-year annual kind of re-up on the plan? Is that typically what you're looking at?
That is standard to keep them current. Most of the funding agencies want them to be current within the last 5 years so that you've done the appropriate amount of community outreach and you're getting the feedback from the residents to build the network that your residents want.
Well, I can applaud. I appreciate you guys keeping up on those type of plans. My work has a master plan for facilities, and it's old and unupdated. It just seemed like the waste of money. So I appreciate you doing that. Side note, is there a traffic plan that's similar to your bike plan? Is there a traffic master plan for the city?
Yes, the general plan has a circulation element that does some of the same features, but deals with more of the vehicular movement around the city.
Is that available on the website? I don't know. Okay, and then
Yeah.
do they ever kind of get overlapped to make sure that one's meshing with the other one? Or are they two independent documents?
While there are some independent features of the two documents, they really are in sync when it comes to the goals that the city wants to move forward with our transportation network. When it comes to providing streets with all modes of travel for all people, both documents definitely are in line with that. The difference being the general plan has a CEQA level analysis done to it where the Bike, Ped, and Trails Master Plan does not.
Okay.
That's about the only difference.
So, and I'm more of just kind of catching up to the game. I've this somewhat new to me. Like the Clarksburg bike trail that exists through, I guess that's the east side of the city. With the Village Parkway master plan community out there, will that bike plan supersede whatever the village plan ends up being, or whatever it's gonna be called? So will that, our bike plan as a city have precedence over anything new coming in?
Yes.
Any new type of build?
So new developments coming in, we'll look to both the general plan for the roadway network and to the bike ped and trails master plan for the walking and biking trails throughout there, throughout the new developments. The Clarksburg Branch Line Trail is a city-owned right-of-way. It will be a bike trail all the way down, even outside of the city limits when we secure funding for that. But I believe you're referring to Liberty, the new project that's coming in between Village Parkway and.
Whatever's south of the highway and, or the high school and Target going towards, against the river and south. You have the Village Parkway Road. Like I said, I'm not sure what the planning stages are and how far out. I was just wondering, will this bike plan, then how will that new developer have to incorporate our bike plan into their development? Even
Yes.
if it doesn't make sense for that house?
Yes, what they're doing right now is through the discretionary permits that they're going through that process right now through their specific plan. They're incorporating this into their plan now so that they, so it does all sync. So they can provide the number of rooftops they would like versus the roadway network we would like.
Okay.
So they are in line.
Great, thank you so much.
Other comments?
Thank you for the update. I'm excited to see the draft when it comes out. And I do think it's a great idea to make it more digestible in, as far as technical terms and more graphics, and just so the public knows what's going on. Sometimes you get a document and you're like, that's just too much jargon and text. So I think that's a really good update. Thanks. Oh, and is the bike share incorporated into this, or is that separate?
It is incorporated into this. This really speaks to the on-street and off-street bike facilities, but a program like Bike Share, we want, the service area for Bike Share, as it is right now, and as it will expand in May through June, will take advantage of the bikeway network that this plan envisions and that we're actually putting on the ground right now.
Thank you.
Other comments? Seeing that I just have a couple myself then, I want to echo Commissioner Sabian. I think it's great that in this new version of the plan, we'll have the infographic style to make the terms more public user-friendly. Myself, I don't know the difference between a Class 1 or a Class 2 or a Class 3, so I think that's a good thing to do. I also I noted on the second page that there'll be two appendices, Safe Routes to School Plan and Safe Routes for Senior Plan. I think that's great, especially because our city is now an age-friendly community, so having that should be helpful for that population. The only note I have, which isn't really about the updated plan itself, but maybe for the commission going forward, is if there are ever items about plan updates, if there's no draft plan yet ready to be presented, maybe we could see the existing plan, so we'd have some idea of a comparison of what the draft plan will be going against. So in this case, for example, if we had the 2013 Bicycle, Pedestrian, and Trails Master Plan included in the meeting packet, I think that might have been helpful for my fellow commissioners and myself to have some more targeted questions when it comes to feedback. Okay. But like I said itself, for the proposal here in front and the proposed changes, I'm really excited to see at our March meeting how it turns out.
And I'm happy to send out, it's available online, the 2013 plan. I'm happy to send it out to the commission for your review before the March meeting if you'd like.
I know for myself, I certainly would. I don't want to speak on behalf of others, but it might be helpful. Any other comments or feedback?
I have just a quick question. And I might slightly put you on the spot with this, but that's not my intention, just so you know. I'm just curious how this master plan compares to other similar ones in cities throughout the region. You know, how does it differentiate from Sacramento versus Folsom versus Roseville? Does it, put us on the map more as being, more sensitive in terms of our planning for this sort of a thing?
So what really sets us apart more than other ones is, I think, this level of analysis around that level of traffic stress that really kind of guides some of our decision-making about what type of facility to put down. That is a concept that not every bike plan utilizes. We were the first in the region in 2013 to do that. I don't think Sacramento has published a plan with that level of analysis. I know Folsom has not. Folsom relies heavily, I think, on trail networks, less on roadway infrastructure. We try to balance both to meet the needs of both. Really, where organizations judge your bike friendliness and your dedication to all active transportation is what gets put on the ground. And they usually view it through the kind of 5 E's of the industry, and that is engineering, which would get actually installed on the ground. Education, are you out there educating your residents on how to bicycle and what facilities are available to them? Do you have a level of enforcement for both vehicles and for bicyclists that are not operating within the law? Putting me on the spot here, so bear with me. Education, enforcement, engineering, encouragement, which is what activities do you do to get out and get people excited about riding? Is your bike to work days? Is your Energizer stations during bike to work month? And also that, how do you quantify all of that is the last component of, do you have measurable successes over that? Do you know what your current mode split and mode shift? How many people are driving versus the percentage of people walking and biking?
If I can ask one more follow-up. Is there, and I know the plan hasn't been approved yet by the council anyway, so it's still got, a little bit of a ways to go, but is there any thinking to doing a big kind of rollout advertisement, for this, just to kind of, from a community selfishness standpoint, to tout the great things that are going on here? Because, this sort of a plan is so key to so many people who are, looking to buy a new house in one city over another, and the kind of, amenities and things like this that are offered. So just, if you guys have anything in the back of your heads right now, or...
So the April adoption, or possibly the May adoption, is a little is strategic, with May as Bike Month happening and all the activities around that. So we would probably take that with the same proclamation we take for May as Bike Month, at least at the council level, and have that level of applauding of the adoption of the plan. From the public outreach perspective, we would probably utilize our existing city assets to make sure that these are known. We really want to revamp our website to be a little more functional, have the document easier to read on it, so that it is more available for those who are looking to the city's website when they are wanting to move to the city and see what assets are available in the city.
Thank you.
Any further comments from the commission?
Sorry, I did have one more question. So as far as developing the plan, are there scoping meetings, or how does that work? Is there public involvement, or?
So the public engagement side, we did right when we kicked off the plan in May of 2016. We've had similar and parallel outreach efforts with the Parks Master Plan update, which is also going on. They did a fairly prolific survey that came back stating that the number one asset that people wanted in the community was walking and biking trails. Far outnumbered every other asset that was suggested in the plan. So we're using some of the other parallel efforts that we've done. So we had 2 meetings in May of 2016 to get input from the residents of what we wanted out of the plan, and what areas on the map were your barriers to moving around the city. And that really kind of brought us a lot of great information about where we need to focus, where people are moving around. So we had 1 meeting during the daytime downstairs, and one meeting in the evening across the street in the community center. We had 50 to 60 people attend that, and it was, for the population of our city, that's a fairly robust amount of residents coming out for that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I might interject, and if it pleases the commission, one of the items of the December 4th meeting that the commissioners asked that we provide is an update on the rollout of bike share. And I figure we could probably take this time, since Chris Doherty is the project manager on that the commission might be able to ask some questions with regard to that, and perhaps he could give us a quick update on that.
Thanks, that's an excellent suggestion. If with no objections, if there are no further questions for this particular item, then I'd be happy to hear about the bike share program.
Great. So May of last year, we rolled out what is the preview of the regional bike share system. Initially, about 50 bikes between West Sacramento and Sacramento were deployed. There are some across the street. We have 8 hub locations in West Sacramento. It has been fairly utilized for such a small number of bikes. It's been successful as you can be with a preview. Coming this May, we are rolling out 300 additional bikes and expanding the service area. By June, that'll be a total of 900 bikes. That will be between Sacramento, West Sacramento, and the city of Davis. We are planning our current locations now for where those hubs are going to be. And the big difference between what is coming in May versus what is on the ground now is the company Social Bicycles has rebranded to Jump as their new brand. And with that new brand comes a different bike, which is all electric assist. So you just get on and pedal, and it's like the wind is at your back. So it's very easy to move around. We usually use the comparison, we don't have hills in this region, but we do have 105-degree days. And if you're in a suit trying to move around, like I go to meetings a lot on a bike share bike to downtown Sacramento, to have a little bit of assist while you're going to meetings is going to be really nice on a hot day. So we'll look at quite a large rollout. It'll be the nation's largest electric e-bike bike share fleet in May and June.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Commissioner Johnson.
So when you do implement the e-bike program, will the cost increase?
Putting me in the spot, sorry. I'm trying to remember, I don't think it's much different than it is now, where it's, I think, $4 prorated per hour to ride the bike around. And most trips on these are really, it's less as a bike that you're going to go ride down the trail on. It's really more of a mobility element to where it's a very flexible way that if you get off of light rail, you can move around the city very quickly. So it's looked at it as one of the mosaics in a broad spectrum of mobility elements that are coming to the urbanized areas. There are going to be, with the new system, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, monthly memberships where you get X amount of time, I think, per day on the bike, and I think some weekly rentals as well. Which will make it easier and maybe a little cheaper for the more common user.
Thank you.
Other comments from the commission? Commissioner Ralston.
Does this program cost the city money?
Not really at this time. There is some staff time associated with it, and we are looking at, but this program has been funded through a grant that SACOG, our regional planning organization, secured 5 years ago to roll out this system. So they were dedicated, the numbers off the top of my head, I want to say is about $3.5 million to do a system. Since then, things have changed a fair amount with a private operator coming in, but the money being spent is largely from SACOG down to the 3 cities, so that they are funding the station installation and the encroachment permit process that goes through that. The city at this point is covering my staff time to be part of the project.
Right. No, I would expect internal costs to be covered. The expansion of 900 bikes, does that mean that the city is allowing this company to come into the city to expand and just we're providing the space and there is no, hey, nobody rides the bike, so the city has to pick up the cost?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it is really coming in at almost no capital outlay for the city.
Okay, great, thanks.
Other commissioner comments?
Yeah, I was curious if you could just briefly describe the sites for the proposed hubs within the city of West Sacramento.
So we have an interesting dilemma where we originally envisioned these hubs that didn't need power. And now with the electrification of the bikes, that we are looking for opportunity sites for about 30% of the sites that are going to need power. The station planning is happening right now with actually a consultant that works for SACOG, with a lot of my input and input from staff about where we're going to be. But the logical locations are a site at the barn with some additional bike parking associated with that, because it's a really big draw, especially on some nights where they just they need some additional bike parking there. We're going to look at some of our park assets, like Riverwalk Park. Right now, our current hubs are the barn, the corner of Tower Bridge Gateway and 3rd, the one outside at the community center, the transit center across the street, at Grand and Tower Bridge Gateway at the West Gateway Place development, at Burgers and Brew at the bike location there, one at Calsters and one at 5th and C. We're going to be adding approximately 15 new hub locations, and they'll be spread out to locations where there are good opportunities to place them, but good activity centers that are going to be draws as well. So we don't have all the locations nailed down, but we're working very diligently to get that in and permitted by May.
Thank you.
Other commissioner comments? Well, I just want to echo that comment. I'm excited to see the expansion and hope that it's expanded beyond the current areas, which are excellent, but also if there's any room in the Bright or Broderick or Southport neighborhoods, that would be great. And just from a personal experience, I had a friend a few weekends ago who had a birthday party, people living in Midtown across the river, and the plan was to bike to our 3 breweries in the port area. And we didn't realize that the current bike zone areas are far away from that corner of the city. So hopefully with this expanded rollout and this electrical bike expansion, which sounds very exciting, there'll be further consideration for other parts of the city as well.
We are looking into those areas, those activity centers, and those big draws as where to site these locations as much as possible.
Great, thank you. If there are no further comments, thank you very much. Moving on the agenda then, item 7 under the General Administration Function Part 2. Item A, Transportation, Mobility, and Infrastructure Commission calendar. And I believe it appears the next regular meeting is scheduled for Monday, March 5th, 2018. Is that correct? Great, thank you. Moving on to item B, reports from city staff.
Mr. Chair, I do have a remaining item from the December 4th meeting. The previous chair, Commissioner Peterson, requested information at the December meeting on noticing procedures with respect to construction activity in the vicinity of his home at B and 3rd Street for the Grand Gateway Washington District Infrastructure Project. That project included minor potholing activities occurring on E, F, and G streets, replacement of storm drain on 3rd and B, and replacement of water main. On November 20th, the contractor provided the minimum 48-hour noticing using posted no parking signs with contact information per city specifications prior to initiating potholing work. 1 week later, on November 27th, the contractor limited parking in order to begin performing work and hand-delivered resident notification door hangers per city specifications in an effort to begin work that would impact the nearby residents' frontage or utility services. The contractor then posted an electronic changeable message sign on November 29th with construction activity information for road users, and on December 4th, a letter was sent via standard mail informing residents about the work schedule. Actual work began on December 6, 2017, and the contractor followed all flagging procedures in order to guide residents through closed streets to access their homes in accordance with the city's public convenience specifications. In addition, the contractor provided outreach support with posted contact information and was available to answer questions to residents over the phone and in the field. Many residents did take advantage of that prior to the work beginning. All the work was performed per contract specifications as required, and that was relayed to me by the city's construction manager. As work continues, residents continue to be notified, and businesses are notified in advance of construction activities in accordance with city specifications, and city staff has gone out and notified the contractor to minimize disturbance to the greatest effort possible to help residents and businesses to plan delays. So the answer is yes, we have followed all city procedures and actually exceeded city procedures with regard to this construction project.
Thank you. I'm sure Commissioner Peterson will be happy to hear that when he reviews the video of tonight's meeting.
Yes.
And then I'm just reviewing the minutes from the last meeting as well as other future agenda items or requests from city staff. And I see another request from myself for a presentation on the utilization of the parking meters near the barn.
I forwarded that information to our Economic Development Department, and I'm awaiting reply back on what venue that should be presented in, whether it be this venue or if it's for the EDAC. So there's still some discussion on the venue, and I'm hoping to give information to you as soon as possible.
Great, thank you. In that case, moving on to item C on the agenda, future agenda item requests by the Transportation, Mobility, and Infrastructure Commission. Any requests? Commissioner Sapien.
So I have one on the, I don't know, maybe in September or October, we heard about the Flex Ride system to replace one of the buses.
You're referring to the VIA discussion that was just approved the contract was approved by the city council.
Okay, and so what's the expected rollout date for that? Is it-
We continue to look at that rollout date. I think it's a little bit of a moving target at this time. I can provide an update for you at the next meeting, along with the full information on the schedule for that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other future agenda item requests? Seeing and hearing none, moving on to item D on the agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
A motion by Commissioner Sapien. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Ralston. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.